Are you going to tell me 15 minutes?
Is there a gourmet chef looking inside you? Well then, give us a call and you could be a guest chef on the show Soup to Nuts. That's right, you could be sharing your gastronomic creations with all of us. So give us a call at 881-1653. Or if that's busy, then give us a call at 881-2189.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Soup to Nuts with me, your host, Fran Maxime. Once again, I'm sure that you have seen me on other episodes if you watch Soup to Nuts, but today we're doing something different. Pizza, a little bit easier, a little bit, I don't know, casual, more casual, shall we say. And, but there's still a bunch of different ways that you can make pizza to make it interesting. One of the first things that you'll notice is that I am already cooking, or simmering if you will, some chicken pieces. This is just chicken breast that I have cut up and put in a pan with just modicum of olive oil and a tiny bit of water. And then I just sprinkled on a little bit of Goya seasoning, which is just one of the favorite things that I use just to give it a little flavor. If you have like Lowry seasoned salt at home or something like that, you can use that too. It doesn't really matter what you use. And now I'm going to add some broccoli to that because this is going to be some of the toppings for one of the pizzas that we're going to make. And it's going to need to cook for maybe about another 5 or 10 minutes or so. Definitely want to make sure the chicken is cooked, and the broccoli can kind of just be soft. Doesn't have to be fully cooked. So I'm going to turn that up to a medium-high heat right now, and just going to let that sit there. And if it gets a little bit too dry, I'm going to put in some more water. And then later on, I'm going to add something else that's a special ingredient, which I'll reserve as a secret for right now. So, rolling the dough. Dough, you ask, did you make it? No, because that would be too difficult. So what I have done instead is purchased frozen bread dough, which I would show you right now, but it's already unfrozen, so I'm not going to show you the actual product that you buy at the store. But it's really, it's like $1.50, I think, for about 5 frozen loaves, and you can thaw them out, or you can go to a local bakery or even some of the grocery stores and buy fresh bread dough. It doesn't really matter. I don't make my own because it's too much work, and I certainly don't buy those preformed crusts that they have in the store because I think that they're always stale and too thick, and I just don't like them because this is actually really easy to do. So I am going to take the dough, which I've pretty much just let rise in the plastic bag. You can let it rise for about maybe 4 hours or so before you start making your pizza or assembling the pizza, and let it rise in a plastic bag or on a plate or something like that. And I actually roll it. I'm just spraying it with some cooking spray. No flour here. I don't need to get it to how shall we say, too dry or anything. It's actually going to look a little bit oily. And this is just a heavy wooden rolling pin. One of the things that you'll need to do is, you know, a lot of times pizza's made on round tins, and that's because there are these people who fantasize about tossing it up in the air and then catching it and then like throwing it over their head or something and then like doing a cocktail scene or something with their pizza, but I can't do that, so I roll it because I'm conservative like that. But it works for me. So you're going to just keep on rolling this until it gets into all the corners, and basically you're just going to try to even it out here. And that's pretty much good enough. You can just kind of spread it out a little bit with your hands if you need to. And if you're concerned about hygiene, wear some plastic gloves. So, next thing to do is the tomato sauce or tomato paste or whatever it is that you want to call it. I have a secret. For all of you who've tried pizza sauces and say that they're too runny, or if you've tried to make them with marinara sauce and you say that it doesn't have enough flavor, buy some Italian-style tomato paste. Don't buy sauce, don't buy pureed tomatoes, don't try to do anything too, you know, I don't know, elaborate. I'm just mixing up this chicken and broccoli a little bit here on the side to make sure it doesn't stick. Just use the tomato paste because it's really simple. This is a special brand, I'll go ahead and say it, Contadina has Italian paste with tomato pesto, which apparently is just an extra flavor. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw this on the dough, and I'm just going to spread it out with a spoon. And it's going to form a very thin layer of sauce. And you can see there's already some oregano and whatnot in here. And if they have regular tomato paste and they don't have Italian style, then go ahead and just buy it and make sure you use the tomato paste, not the pureed tomatoes. But use instead, you know, some more seasonings and some more flavorings. So I'm going to go ahead and take the vegetables and start putting them on the pizza. One of the things that you need to know about assembling a pizza is that the vegetables should go on first and then the cheese. And I am going to do some onions. I actually did a mixture here of white onions, which I've just chopped up. You can do this at home any way you like. Some green peppers, which are, you know, just really healthy and good for you. Just kind of throw those on there. Really nice colors here, you know. I mean, you just get a good looking pizza as well. Some red peppers. And if you don't like any of these ingredients, don't use them. You can use whatever it is that you prefer. Some yellow peppers, which are really fun. Getting into this tricolor pepper thing, which is kind of neat. You can feel like a gourmet even if you're not. Some red onions, which actually are a little bit more purple. So this is like a tutti frutti looking festival fiesta kind of pizza, but it actually, you know, tastes pretty normal because it's just normal vegetables that look different. And then I'm going to throw on some mushrooms here too. And that is pretty much what your vegetable quotient is going to be like. I'm going to step back here for a second to the chicken and the broccoli, just because about that 10 minutes or so has elapsed. I'm going to add a tinge of water. Just so that it doesn't totally stick to the pan. And now I'm going to add that special ingredient that I was talking about. Voila! Sun-dried tomatoes. Yummy! And one of the secrets about sun-dried tomatoes is you have two options when you buy them. You can either buy the ones that are in oil, or you can buy the ones that are in, well, they're not in water, they're just packed dry. They're dried, sun-dried, got the name. Anyway, you can take them and buy the dried ones. They'll have a lot less calories, which, I mean a lot less calories, like not just a few less. And you can steep them in hot water, boil some hot water, put the sun-dried tomatoes in the bowl, and then steep them for about 10 minutes, which is all I did, is just basically soak them. And then you'll end up with a nice soft sun-dried tomato. So I'm just going to let that cook a little bit more, get it all together. That's going to be the topping for another pizza, which I'll assemble shortly. And now we're going to put the cheese on. Now what I've done is I've bought pre-shredded mozzarella cheese, because the mozzarella cheese that you would buy that's thick is no better than the cheese that you buy that's shredded. With the other kinds of cheese, however, I prefer to use an extra sharp white cheddar cheese, and also some kind of a mixture like Colby Jack or a Monterey Jack cheese. So that's what this is, and that's why it's looking a little bit softer than the mozzarella. It's not quite as dry as the mozzarella cheese, but it's all going to melt down just the same. And what it does is it adds a nice edge to the pizza that you won't often taste in a lot of the pre-packaged ones that you'll buy in the frozen dairy or frozen food section, or even some of the pizzas that you'll get in restaurants. And I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle some of that on, and then of course I'm going to put the mozzarella on as well. And this is just going to be a big mound of pizza, basically, and you're just going to want to make sure that not too much of this falls off here. One of the good things about making your pizza in a rectangular, pan and not a circular pan is that, like I said, you can roll it out. But one of the problems with that is a lot of the cookie sheets that you'll find, which is what this is a cookie sheet, will have big edges, so you can't roll all the way. So when you're looking, look for one like this one that has very, very low, not deep edges. So that's basically the pizza. I'm going to go ahead and put on a little bit of seasoning, even though there's already a lot of seasoning in the tomato paste that we use, that Italian style tomato paste. I'm going to go ahead and throw on a little bit of basil, a little crushed red pepper, just for a little pica picante, as we say in Spanish, which this isn't, but whatever, child of the world. A little onion powder, just to add a little more flavor. Even though there are onions on here, it's nice to just kind of pick it up. Tiny bit of garlic powder. Little garlic never hurt anyone. Actually, it has these fabulous healing properties, in case you haven't heard. I'm sure you have. And then some Italian seasoning. I had to read that for a second because I almost forgot what it was. And that's typically just a combination of rosemary, oregano, and some thyme and some basil. So I'm duplicating myself a little bit there with the basil, but so what? It's just spices. You're going to put this in the oven for about 20 minutes on 400 degree temperature. And it's going to basically cook down and bubble up and be really yummy. So I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. And I'm going to get back to this chicken so that I can make this pizza in the meantime, because I want to put them in the oven simultaneously. And you can see that it's just cooking down a little bit, getting a little bit softer. And this is just a nice alternative type of pizza that not a lot of people know about. This is a roasted garlic Italian style paste. No big deal, same difference. It's just, it's the same consistency. It just has a slightly different flavor to it. And that's, manufacturers dictated, not me. But I started making pizza, I think, maybe about 26, I don't know, probably in high school, which is kind of scary. And it's just, a really simple, easy thing to make, and people always like it. And it's good to make at parties. And I swear, it takes me, as you can see, probably about as much time to make it as it would if I were to actually go ahead and try to, pop one in the oven from the frozen food section. So this is basically done. This is the topping with the sun-dried tomatoes, the chicken, and the broccoli. I'm going to go ahead and spoon this onto the pizza, spread it out. It's really chunky. It's a lot. It's going to be, a thick and heavy pizza. Sometimes you want to eat these with a fork and a knife. And that's what they do in Italy, actually, except for in Sicily. In the northern region of Italy, like in Umbria and Tuscany and Toscana and Genoa, what they do is they make a very, very thin pizza. And oftentimes, you'll wonder why they name their different pizzas different things. And for example, margarita pizza, or pizza margherita, is basically the Queen Margaret, named after her, and it's just the plain cheese pizza. Something like Quattro Stagioni has 4 seasons, or 4 stations, one of which is olives, one of which is artichokes, another one is an egg sometimes, and then they'll put some prosciutto, which is that Italian cured ham, on the other one. And it'll be basically cut up in 4 pieces like that. And it's really delicious. That was one of my favorite pizzas when I was traveling there. It's very good. But if you don't like one of the 4 stations, then you can substitute something else. So this pizza, I'm just going to put on a little bit more mozzarella cheese here to even it out. This pan isn't quite as big as my other one, but these are very hearty meals. And with the chicken, you're getting a lot of protein, and obviously with the vegetables, you're getting a lot of good nutrients as well. So this is pizza number 2, which we also are going to pop in the oven shortly. Actually, I think I'll throw on, just for color, because that's always important in presentation, just a little bit of extra seasoning on top. Okay, I'm going to move this over here. And then for our final pizza, for all you meat lovers out there, the very infamous pepperoni, which is quite simple to do. But we're going to jazz that up a little bit too. This is just the regular Italian style tomato paste. It doesn't really matter which ones you use for which pizzas. I just kind of pick these at random, but they're all, like I said, tasty. And I think you can do this at home by now because we're on try number 3. So spread that out, put that on there. Now the only thing that we're going to do differently is we're going to take the pepperoni and we're going to put it on after we put the cheese on. So, wait a minute, I said the pepperoni first. I'm going to put this on first because the pepperoni has more oil in it than the vegetables. So the reason why we're adding this afterwards is that it will, the oil won't sink too far down into the dough and make it too sticky. It'll have further to go, if you will, if it sits on top. And the cheddar cheese tends to have a little, actually a lot more oil in it than the mozzarella. So you don't want to use quite as much of it as you would the mozzarella. It's more for flavor, for changing the flavor. Adding some more cheese, spreading it out. Can't forget about the corners here. Gonna add some pepperoni. And these you can buy at the deli, obviously, you know, already sliced, or you can buy them, you know, the stick of pepperoni and then cut it up, but I like it this way because it's a lot thinner. And if you don't like pepperoni, some of the other meats that people use are prosciutto, like I said, the cured ham, or, and that sounds weird to some people, but honestly, it's what they do in Italy, or they even put tuna on a pizza, as long as it's albacore, or sometimes they'll put, you know, hamburger and sausage and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to throw on a tiny bit more cheese here. Cover that up and fill it out. A little bit more Italian seasoning. And that's pretty much going to be pizza number 3. So we'll be right back with the other pizzas and also a light salad that you can have for before your pizza meal. Thanks, we'll be right back. And today, as you know, we're making the pizza, but to balance out the meal and have a little bit of greens along with our bread and dough and all that other good stuff that we're having with the pizza, I decided to make a tomato, basil, and mozzarella salad, which is just that simple. But it's one of the things that people never do, and they kind of are like really impressed when you do it, so it's kind of a little shortcut to the gourmet routine. First thing you gotta do is start with a nice ripe tomato. Now, honestly, it's probably hard to find these out of season. I mean, they really just don't work unless it's summertime. So having a good tomato is definitely, it makes all the difference in the world. My grandfather used to, you know, make tomato sandwiches when I was a kid growing up because he had a huge garden, and he would always make, you know, tomato salad, cucumber salad, whatever he would do with beefsteak tomatoes, and they were just delicious, ripe, and I don't know, if you've never had a ripe tomato right off the vine, you basically haven't ever eaten a tomato. So just remember that if you're not a tomato lover. It's probably just because you haven't had a good one. Also, there's fresh basil here too, which you can find in the garden of my grandfather, that is, or you can find in the grocery store. You can get these nice sprigs of basil in a bunch for about, oh, I don't know, $1.50 or something like that a bunch. And they're just really aromatic. They smell great. We call it basilic in the Italian, but basil is basically the name of the herb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out sort of a ring of tomatoes and basil. So we're going to start with some color. But then I'm going to do something else, which you probably aren't as familiar with, which is the mozzarella. Now this mozzarella is the pure mozzarella, unlike the cheese that I use in the pizza. And sometimes people kind of get grossed out when they look at this, but you really shouldn't, because it's just nice, soft, fresh mozzarella. And sometimes people call it buffalo mozzarella. I don't know where that came from. Certainly not Italy, but hey, so what? We all have to own a piece of the motherland. And I'm just going to slice this up. And you're going to see that it has a nice, nice doughy consistency almost. And it's really a very tasty, mild cheese. And the water that you're looking at is sort of like brine. It's sort of salt and milk. Sounds not so pleasant, but it actually keeps the mozzarella as fresh and as tender as it is. And you really want to have mozzarella that is soft like this. It doesn't really, this type of salad really is just basically requiring fresh ingredients. I'm just going to turn down this pizza a little bit because it's getting a little bit hot. And now I'm going to go ahead and lay out the vegetables. Like I said, we're going to start with some basil and some tomato. And we're just going to go ahead and layer these along with pieces of mozzarella. So you really have some really nice colors of the flag here. Once again, I seem to go off on a theme about the Italian flag, but every food seems to be red, white, or green, so it's almost inherent that you would do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and keep on layering these around the plate. And there's a different, I mean, you can present this any way. I'm putting it on a platter, but one of the nice ways to do it is as an appetizer. If you're having people over and you want to put some fresh basil, mozzarella, and tomato on a side plate and give them some fresh Italian bread, it really looks nice on their plate, and most people really enjoy it. Just a word about what I'm going to top this off with. The balsamic vinegar is a product of Modena. I'll just hold that up for 1 second. You can use a variety of brands in the market today. Doesn't really matter which one you pick, but they have really expensive bottles of it in Italy. I mean, it can cost up to, you know, $100 for about 2 ounces of balsamic vinegar, which is really a lot of money, but it's supposedly one of the best things. And Modena is a town that's about half an hour northeast of Milan, and that's where they make it, and it goes in the old wooden caskets, I guess, I don't know, the barrels. I guess they're not caskets because they would be dead grapes, but that doesn't really work. Anyway, you get the drift. And just going to polish this off with a few slices here in the middle. And obviously, this is just a really quick salad. I mean, I could take a little bit more time and make it a little bit more beautiful, but I think that just the colors really are what it's about, and the freshness of the vegetables, and it's just appealing to eat when it's like that. Just going to go ahead and put these in here and add one more slice of cheese over here and over here, and another maybe sprig or so. And basically what you have is just a really nice fresh salad. Now you're going to have to dress the salad with something, and as I was talking about, the balsamic vinegar is definitely the way to go, and olive oil. Whoops, olive oil is really good to use. You can use extra virgin olive oil, or you can use regular olive oil. The extra virgin usually costs about 2 or 3 times as much, and they basically just distill the olives a little bit more. But I'm just going to go ahead and pour some of this on here. You can see it has a really deep brown texture. It almost looks deep brown color and a little bit thicker texture than your regular vinegar. But that's because it's so rich, and it's typically a lot sweeter than wine vinegar or other kinds of vinegar. I'm just going to pour in a little bit of olive oil. And then actually, these are oil-soaked olives, and I just like to add these because they just add a little bit more color to it. And they're very dry. They almost look like prunes. They're not the Kalamata olives that you'll find, because those would be Greek, although there's a lot of similarity between the two regions. And they just add a little bit of color to it. So that's basically what the balsamic vinegar olive oil mixture is going to look like on top of the fresh mozzarella salad. We have about 5 more minutes before the pizzas are done. I'm going to pull those out in a minute and I will be right back. Thanks. Hello, and you can see that the pizzas are done. So, I'm excited because I'm hungry. But we have the chicken, broccoli, and sun-dried tomato pizza over here. We have the pepperoni with the little twist that I threw in there, but you guys didn't see me do, was putting on the artichokes and the olives, which is really delicious. And then over here we have that full-blown veggie Tropicana pizza that I talked about. Now I'm just going to cut up a couple of slices. Basically, you have to use a pizza cutter to do it. And I'm going to cut these straight on down the middle. And you can let these cool for, I don't know, maybe about 10 minutes or so. And just use a spatula to go ahead and pull them apart. And I usually serve them on a platter. So you can go ahead and cut them up so that people can eat them really easily. Otherwise, if they have to cut them themselves, it's a little bit too messy. But you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to cut off a couple of pieces of this one here, the broccoli and tomato and chicken pizza. And you can see that this bread dough really rises nicely in the corners, but if you can look at that, it's really not too thick. So it's really not going to be too bready or too doughy, which is really nice. And then last but not least, I'm going to cut off a couple of slices of our veggie pizza. The one thing to think about the vegetables is they are a little bit more wet, so the pizza will be a little bit moister than the other two. But that's okay. You can see in the middle, a little bit of onion there. And that is pretty much going to be the representation of all the pizzas that we have. Just going to put a little bit of crushed pepper or ground pepper on here, and a little bit of salt for seasoning, and then just a little bit of pepper on the pizza just for a little extra flavor. And with all of that said, that's 3 pizzas down and 1 salad, and hopefully it's a quick and easy meal to do. I swear it only takes about a half an hour to make one of these pizzas. And as far as the salad goes, if you have the ingredients in your garden this summer, just definitely pick up the mozzarella cheese and throw it together on a plate, because it's absolutely delicious. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Soup to Nuts, and I hope you'll tune in next time on WACA-TV. Thanks very much.
Hello? Yeah. Where? On Union Street? Okay, as soon as I can. Right. I'm on my way.
David?
A voice calls out to you on a cold and lonely night.
Where's Daddy going?
Help is coming soon. Everything's gonna be alright.
Bye-bye. Take care.
When you're in the dark, let me be your light.
And when the struggle gets too hard, let me fight your fight. I'll pull you through. That's what I do.
Can I take yeah, but I want to see Betty. Betty's here. I need Air Rescue 15 right away. Get me that chopper on the double.
America, let me dry your tears. America, let Make it let me hold your hand. I understand. Evacuation. 1 more mile, please. That's what I do. I'm here for you. I'll pull you through.
A voice calls out to you.
Every day someone needs us, and we need you.
David, you really are a good guy.
Be a Red Cross volunteer.